If you're somebody who is cutting right now or you're looking to start a cut but you're scared of losing muscle, this video is going to help you out. I'm going to cover the 5 strategies I use to drop 20 pounds after a bulk, because I'm guessing most of you guys have been bulking up and you worked hard, you gained a lot of muscle and you don't want to lose it. So I'm going to cover the best ways to go about it, because cutting calories does not mean cutting muscle. It doesn't have to be that way, and these strategies are going to prevent it from happening. But first, if you're new here, these are the top shape transformations. That's my program. This is why I feel qualified to talk about this, because you can see in these transformations here, they go from fat to fit. They're not going from fat to skinny. They're building muscle while dropping body fat. But you don't want to end up like this guy, right? But the reason why most people lose muscle in a cut is because they go too aggressive. The first thing they do is slash their calories down, go in an extreme deficit, and it screws up the metabolism. Literally, you just lose weight, sure, but you lose all your gains. Losing weight is easy, but actually cutting down, maintaining, building muscle at the same time, that's a skill that you need to learn. And you don't want to end up like in poverty calories, only eating chicken, not even rice, just chicken and broccoli. Protein diet, that's where some of you guys are ending up when you slash your calories down that low, and it's not a good spot to be at. Your hormones, everything is screwed up. Another mistake is training, thinking that reducing the weight or doing higher reps is going to hone your muscles more. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to be weight training same amount. You don't need to change up your training routine just because now you're cutting. If anything, you could drop a little bit of volume, but the most important thing is going to be keeping the weights up high. You don't want to drop the weights. You want to keep the strength high as much as you can. And another one is nutrition errors, right? Not having enough protein, not timing your meals properly, not eating enough carbs, or just having bad eating habits, eating fast food one day and then yo-yo dieting. All of these things, you don't want to do. So what you do want to do is eat enough protein, at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And especially when you're cutting, it's even more important to have more protein, to preserve as much protein as possible. You could split it up into a couple different meals to stimulate more muscle protein synthesis. It is slightly more optimal to have a meal before and after training to give yourself more energy in the gym, versus if you train fasted, you're probably going to feel weaker. You need to do whatever works best in your schedule. Sometimes that might not work for everybody. To have 4 or 5 meals, it might take up too much time. So do whatever you need to do to hit your protein intake. That's going to be the most important thing. So if you need to have 100 grams of protein in one meal, have 100 grams of protein in one meal, if that's what it takes. But if you can, spread out your protein throughout the day. Again, post-workout as well. Yes, it's going to help 100%. But if for some reason you can't have protein right after the gym, it's all right. The most important thing is hitting that protein goal at the end of the day. And the reason why is because when you're in a deficit, if you're not hitting enough protein, you're not stimulating muscle protein synthesis, and then that makes it so much easier to break down the muscle mass that you've gained, digest. And when you have more protein, it takes more calories to digest it. So you're going to burn more calories eating protein versus eating carbs and fats. That's why you can get away with eating more food, eating more protein, and lose more body fat. It's just a win-win situation. So if you feel like you're struggling with your appetite, definitely want to bump up that protein intake and probably your fiber intake as well. But some good quality sources of protein are going to be lean meats, eggs, Greek yogurt. Bro, fuck tofu. We got to have complete protein sources. None of this BS, vegan protein. Here's the thing, vegan protein is cool if it's got all the amino acids. If it doesn't have the complete profile, you're going to be missing out on getting a good quality protein source. So be careful about that. So make sure you're having animal protein sources that are high in micronutrients. Protein powders and protein powder is completely fine as long as it's good whey protein, good quality. Now, this is the most important though. You could have all the protein in the world, but if your training is ass, then you're going to lose so much muscle. Training is the #1 important thing that you need to have if you want to retain or even build that muscle while you're cutting down. So you need to make sure you're keeping the weights heavy. You need to maintain the training volume as much as you can, and you need to focus on the compound movements and getting really strong on them and keeping that strength high. Your workouts, the very beginning, you should start with that bench, squat, deadlift, whatever, or shoulder press. It doesn't have to be those 3. it could be incline Smith machine, it could be whatever, but you want the heavy movements to start out when you're fresh. You don't want to save heavy movements for the end of your workout, not at all. And you want to make sure you're tracking your strength to make sure you're not getting weaker. That's going to be the most important thing. If you notice your bench press drop down 40 pounds, bro, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something pretty wrong, and you got to focus on you maybe eating more, sleeping better, looking at your recovery, and that could be one of the reasons why you're dropping so much strength. But it's important that you don't go crazy with volume though, because tons of people say do 4 sets, 20 reps, whatever. All this high volume stuff, which is cool, but when you're in a cut, when you're in a dieting phase, you're a lot more fatigued. You don't have as much energy as you did on that bulk. So it's a lot harder to do 4 sets. And the most important thing is just keeping your strength high, actually having high intensity sets, going close to failure, and minimizing that fatigue so you're not drained all the time. Go into a lower volume approach. If you're noticing that you're just fatigued, you're feeling weak, you don't have that energy, drop down the sets, sure, but make sure the strength is there. Make sure you're getting good quality sets in with good form, great time under tension, versus doing these half-ass high volume sets. Now another one is cardio. This is going to be huge because what I like to recommend to my clients is become athletes. You don't want to become a starving child where you have to drop your calories down so low just to drop weight. No. What you can do instead is more cardio, but you want to do it strategically and smart. So always focus on weightlifting, because weightlifting will boost your metabolism. Of course, build your more muscle. That's why it's so huge. Don't do cardio before. Don't exhaust yourself. No, do cardio after, in the morning, or on separate days, or after dinner. That's an underrated hack as well. Just walking as much as you possible, 10K steps, increasing that over time when you get stuck in a plateau, and focusing on NEAT. That's your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. If it's fidgeting, if it's standing more, be active and focus on the low intensity stuff, right? This is going to be very, very good. It's zone 2 cardio. It burns more fat as fuel, and it's less impact on your body. So do things like light cycling, or the incline treadmill, or the Stairmaster. And you want your heart rate to be about 120, 140, where you're in that zone 2 range, and aim for 2 to 3 sessions. You can bump it up. Hit high intensity. You can do that once or twice a week. Now, it's just not the best for burning fat. It's a lot more intense on your body. It's the same thing with running. It's a lot more intense. You got to watch your recovery. It can be great, sure, but it can be easy to lose gains if you're going overboard with the running and this high intensity stuff. And what I would say, if you want to run, do it on a push or a pull day. Don't do it directly before a leg day, because you're going to be a bit more exhausted. You're not going to have enough time to recover from it. But gradually increase the cardio. Start with a couple of sessions, and then work your way up, adding more minutes, adding more sessions over time, only when you need to. You don't want to just jump the gun with 2 hours of cardio straight off the bat, because your body adapts. When you start out with doing cardio, you're fresh, so you're going to burn more calories. It's new. But as you do more and more cardio, the metabolism adapts to it, and you start to burn less calories, even though you're doing the same amount of cardio. That's just how it is. So what you want to also focus on is that slight calorie deficit. This is huge as well, because if you're slashing your calories down, if you're in over 1,000 calorie deficit, yes, you can do that, and it can be okay, but only if your strength is still good, you're not weak, you're not fatigued, you're sleeping good. But if you're experiencing crazy side effects where you can barely walk, your dick isn't getting hard, and that sounds like you probably shouldn't be in a crazy 1,000 calorie deficit. That's why I don't recommend it, because it's very, very easy to just feel weak and drop strength when you're in that crazy 1,000 calorie deficit. So for most, you want to do a 400 to 600 calorie deficit. This is going to be a lot better. You're going to preserve more lean muscle mass, taking it slow instead of doing these aggressive cuts. And it provides enough energy to maintain strength, which is so important for retaining muscle mass. You want to have more carbs, right? When you have the carbs, it's a lot easier to have a pump in the gym, just to have better, long-lasting, high-intensity workouts when you're actually feeling yourself with carbs. That's going to be the main quick energy source that you need. And if you don't have carbs and you're on lower carbs, it's just going to be harder to push yourself when you're on lower energy, lower food. So I always recommend keep the food high. You want to make sure the nutrition, the training is dialed, but also your sleep, your stress, and you're staying hydrated. So sleep, you got to have at least 7 to 9 hours. It's going to decrease cortisol, and cortisol is the stress hormone. This will ruin you, kill your gains. If your cortisol is high, you're stressed all the time, you can make it super hard to lose fat. It's what they call it the cortisol get. It's when you're just getting terrible sleep, you're constantly stressed, you're having shitty workouts. So make sure your cortisol is low, testosterone is high, and you do that by focusing on sleep. You can also do that by reading more, walking more, meditating, not watching blue light before bed, calming yourself down. Make sure to have electrolytes too. That's super underrated. Nobody really talks about electrolytes that much. I just find it, because it's so salty, it really makes me feel more full, more satisfied when I have even just a tiny little scoop of electrolytes. I find that I can have a way better workout. I don't have to be hungry all the time when I'm actually hydrated. A lot of you guys might think you're hungry, but really you're just dehydrated. So I guarantee if you focus on drinking more water, even having things like diet soda, if you're craving sugar, this is going to help with the appetite a ton. So to round up everything that we talked about, focus on the protein, at least 1 gram, spreading it out around 4 to 5 meals, training hard, none of this high volume BS. You're focusing on progressive overload. Cardio, smart, keeping it moderate, doing low intensity stuff, and a moderate deficit, 20 to 25% calorie deficit. Be patient with the process. A lot of you guys want to rush it. You can have all of this in place. If your mindset isn't in the right spot, if you think like, oh, it's okay to just not do the work one day, if you're skipping meals, if you're skipping workouts because you're feeling lazy, because you don't have the energy after work, then you need to focus on your routine. You need to focus on your mindset, your motivation, and your habits. If those aren't in place, none of this matters, right? I can give you a full blueprint in front of you, but if you can't stay committed to it, you're still gonna fail. So you have to find what's really holding you back. If it's the motivation, if it's your routine because you're doing something like smoking weed and staying up late, that's holding you back from lifting weights and eating clean, then cut out the weed, replace it with something better, replace it with electrolytes. It's fucking hard, but it's hard being fat, it's hard being jacked. Choose your hard. It's that simple. Do you want to go another 6 months being fat and flubby, not confident at the beach, or do you want to be that lean, shredded guy where you have the muscle mass retained that you worked hard from, that you got from the bulk, and now you kept it? Or do you want to be the dumbass that just like starves himself, hops on Ozempic, doesn't eat properly, doesn't train properly, and then you lose all the muscle mass that you worked so hard to gain? No, you don't want to be that guy. So do all these things. If you need more help with figuring out a plan that works specifically for you, if you want to fast track the progress, you want to make sure you're being held accountable to do all these things, then apply for coaching, link in bio, or message me on Instagram. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Take the value. Hopefully you gain some knowledge, and subscribe. Peace, chat.